Back again on Big Talk, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Bigg on mic one with your main man Abe Does Media.
Hey, Poppy has beef. You know what it is.
Copy that soul balance. You already know what it is. Man, it's been a minute, Abe.
It's been a while.
2 months since our last content. Been in a little bit of a drought. 2020 has been crazy. You know, we're only on square 6 of Jumanji. 6 more to go. Going to see how this goes.
Yeah.
What's new with you?
Man, yeah, it's crazy. We're already halfway through the year. Already, just graduated. Moved out my old place. Just working on just refocusing. This quarantine's been really crazy for my mental.
Sure.
Lots of mental reconstruction and lots of reevaluating what's important and
right.
Just trying to get through this quarantine not crazy and just be better.
Oh yeah, I know everybody's quarantining, trying to be safe. Make sure you work on your mental health as well. That is something that people really overlook. Make sure even if you can't see your friends and you're feeling down, talk to them, talk to your family, all that. Stay in touch. I mean, it's been really crazy out here. I'm also moving. Bronson's been gone for months at this point. Been living by myself. Jazz moved in for a month here. That was cool. But now everybody's stuff is gone. The apartment's cleared out. You can't really see it. Yeah. I'm also about to move. Going to have to get a new, beautiful location for this podcast because we got to get back at it weekly like we were before.
Right.
Quarantine has kept us apart. It's good to be hanging with you again, brother.
Right.
But man, crazy stuff has been going down in 2020. And what's the newest? What's the newest situation?
George Floyd. Justice for George Floyd.
Justice for George Floyd. It's been a really big thing across the U.S. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the situation itself and then get into the details of what transpired because of that.
Right.
So
basically what happened, a video came out about a officer kneeling on a gentleman's neck for 9 minutes straight, Mr. Floyd. He was crying out to his mom. It was super sad. It was basically like
telling the officer he could not breathe.
Right.
And he was peacefully, he was not resistant.
Right.
Which is what really drove people insane about this video.
Right. And there was 3 other cops involved. One of them was just sitting there standing, seeing them, abuse their power. The other 2 was helping hold a man down that was not resisting, choking, that could not breathe.
Not doing anything wrong, which of course we have seen before. We have seen situations like this before in which the police have been extra brutal with people of color. Right. It's been a thing, prejudice, whether you call it racism or people call it, profiling.
Police brutality.
Police brutality, and it mostly does happen to black people. It's just something that we've all dealt with. I know everybody of color has had to talk with their parents about how to react when you're being arrested by police officers or being harassed, how to act and all that. But if you're doing that and they're still choking you, they're still treating you bad,
right?
At what point is enough enough? And I feel like America has came to the point where enough is enough.
Right.
Because normally, where the protests would happen in the city and the city's on lockdown, crazy shit's going down, it's happening all over America.
Facts.
I know we had a protest here in Charlotte.
Yo.
That you went to yesterday. How was that?
It was good, man. There was thousands and thousands of people there. We marched all the way down from the governor's building all the way down to in front of the police station. It was peaceful. So that was really good. It showed a lot of unity, and everyone just wants justice, and we want to see an end to police brutality. Like a lot of the officer that knelt on George Floyd that killed him, that man had 17 complaints about him already abusing his power. So
he had a lot of complaints about that already. All 4 police officers were charged. The main one, Derek Chauvin, I believe, was second-degree murder charges, and the other were second-degree aiding and abetting. So they all get the same sentence, as far as years, it's the same sentence. But that just went down yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday that finally came out, and the situation happened, if I'm not mistaken, last week.
Yeah.
Before this last weekend. So today's Thursday.
Yeah.
So it's been a week of looting and rioting and all sorts of protests going on.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of petitions, a whole bunch of links that we're going to drop at the bottom of this video to donate to help bail out the people who've been arrested. Over 10,000 protesters have been arrested so far.
Right.
Just this week.
Right.
I mean, it's the whole U.S. It's
Right.
like
All
really rare.
50.
Everybody's coming together.
Right.
Black, white, everybody's protesting. Everybody's pitching in. And you know, really one of the key factors that's like blowing this up is social media.
Right.
I haven't seen this much social media outreach from like not just like movie stars, athletes, normal people. Everybody's pitching in.
Everyone is like, I even seen the actor from Star Wars. He was the one clone trooper that like stood against the whole Finn. Yeah, he was talking about like, oh, like, you know, he's fearing for his career after this, but he's out there protesting, like, you know, it's messed up. Like, he shouldn't have to, you know, feel like he's risking his career to speak out against injustice. So,
and after the whole situation with Kaepernick, a lot of NFL players are starting to now speak up and tweet about, you know, how they're stepping up now and how they wish they had done that for Kaepernick, but it was fear of getting blackballed.
Right.
It was fear of losing your job, your career, your life. And Bennett, one of the Bennett brothers, said it best. He was like, I honestly like understood what he stood for, and when it came time for me to join him, I feared for my family and what would happen if I lost my job because of, you know, standing up for what I believe in. But now it doesn't matter. Everybody's on top of it, protesting, petitions, you know, posting. A couple of Instagram trends to show support have come out. I mean, I really think that people are showing their full support. And the one thing that really caught me about this protest and the looting and everything that's going on, that we've got all this attention. And I'm not sure who I saw tweet it. It was a basketball player, I know that. And they tweeted, you know, we've got everybody's attention. What is our goal? What is the solution? What are we trying to get out of all these protests?
Right.
You know, is it to get a law changed? Is it to get new laws in place? You know, a new system for police officers? And I really think, you know, we need to come up with, you know, I've seen one of the protests that I signed was to pass a law that makes it so that officers have to de-escalate the situation first.
Yes.
In order to be in the right. So they cannot take it to the extreme level until they have tried to de-escalate the situation.
Right.
So that in this situation, where they detained him and were choking him and all this, they would immediately be in the wrong, be arrested. There would be no, you know, they wouldn't have to go to court and all this and stand trial. There wouldn't have to be all this protesting. They would immediately be dealt with because they did not try to de-escalate the situation.
Right. There's been so many videos online too about at these protests and you know, stuff going on downtown and all these different 50 states. There's been police who initiate the violence towards the protesters. Right. I've seen some of them going at the protesters like it's a game of Call of Duty. I seen a video of a police. They was driving the
in New York where they hit them with the cars.
Yeah, they ran him over with the car.
That was wild.
And then there was this other one, dude was sitting outside of the cop car while the other one was driving, shooting the protesters.
With the rubber bullets.
Right, like out of the car,
just
like bro.
driving by too. It wasn't even like they stopped. And I saw that video with them driving by shooting.
Right.
So it's really like on both things. Like the cops, you know, in some cities are being reacted to really negatively. You know, New York, I know those cops were being extra brutal. Of course, you know, the LAPD is infamous for what they do. And I think that's, you know, that law in particular would stop that because it would mean, you know, if you don't try to de-escalate the situation, you are immediately in the wrong. Right. As a keeper of the peace, that's what you should be doing anyway.
Right. Another thing I think is if a police has a certain amount of complaints and a bunch of files against him,
something needs to be checked out.
Right. Like if that man that killed George Floyd had 17 complaints filed against him. That's not right.
A lot of different things.
He should have been
that many problems.
Right.
You should be looked into more carefully.
He's obviously abusing his power. He's obviously going to keep doing it. And there's another issue when police are getting fired for their job for misconduct or whatever it might be, they'll just move 4 cities over and then just join that force over there and start doing the same grimy stuff they was already doing in the first place. Another thing I feel like police need to check their peers. There's so many good police that, you know, maybe they're not doing it, but they're not checking the, you know, old buddy over here, their coworker that they know for a fact is racist, but, you know, he's just not speaking up on it. And I feel like that's just wrong.
I get to the point where you look out for your own, because as a black man, if I saw a situation with another black man, I'm trying to help him. You know, it's not black only helps black, et cetera, because I'm with everybody. You know, that's how I've always been. But at the same time, you know, you work with somebody, you're going to look out for them. But at the same time, You need to understand a situation in which to have their back, and a situation where I'm not saying you need to immediately rat them out, get them fired, lose their job, they can't feed their family. Okay, like I get that. Yeah, I get if you rat on a cop, that's what happens when a cop rats on another cop. I get other cops will look at you differently. But in some situations, we're talking about life and death. We're not talking about a write-up or hurting somebody. We're talking about life and death of an innocent civilian.
Right. Like if it's like, it's okay to check people. Like it's necessary to check people when they're in the wrong, you know?
You
like,
seen the video I posted on my story of the black officer speaking on the situation?
Yes.
What he would have done differently. And I've never had so much respect for police officer.
Right.
He gets up and talks about how we were never taught how to restrain people like that. If I was in that situation, I would have physically pulled them off myself. You know, it's wrong. You know, cops aren't trained that way. Like, they shouldn't be that way. If I see something happening, I'm going to check. I don't speak for all police officers. I just want, you know, and he just wanted people to not, I mean, not even to not look at him, but all cops aren't bad. I know a lot of good cops. Some of my friends are cops. You know, Tony's a cop now.
Whoa, wow.
Yeah. I mean, people, I mean, it's not, but some people do it for the wrong reason. It's a position of power. Some people look at it as such. I'm going to become a cop because that gives me the power over other people.
Right.
You know, and that is just the wrong way to approach it. You want to make, you know, some people join the cops to better the police force, to do big things, and that's great. But there are always going to be some bad apples.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
there's always going to be some Derek Chauvins.
Right.
You know,
we
like,
need to get them out of there. We don't need racist cops in power,
right.
And we don't need people who abuse their power. Because sometimes it's not about just race. Sometimes it's just these cops don't know, how to handle having a little bit of power. They're just drunk off that. They
right.
just, and they were cowards to begin with, and they got a little bit of power, and then they
right.
like flex it a lot, and they're just on a rampage, and no one's checking them. So I mean, we got to just remove these officers with all
right.
these complaints filed against them, and I think that would help out a lot.
And it's wild because you can always tell the difference. Have you ever been like pulled over by the cops and you could tell it was for no other reason than you're a minority?
Yeah.
So I was telling the story of how that happened to me. And I just remember I was scared, big guy like me, you would think I wouldn't, but in that situation, you have no power, no rights to like do anything without making yourself look bad, getting yourself shot, et cetera, et cetera. And I was scared. I'm acting a little bit scared. You could tell, like, sir, can I please grab my wallet? It's in my back pocket. I don't want to reach without you knowing. My insurance is in my glove compartment. Can I please grab that for you, et cetera, et cetera. And I was visibly scared. And when I looked at him, he was enjoying it. I could tell by the look on his face that he was like not shook by the fact that I was scared. It was like almost what he wanted. That was even more scary to me. It was like, what are you pulling me over for? To intimidate me? Are you pulling over for this or that? I didn't even end up getting a ticket because I wasn't doing anything wrong. Right. Literally gave me a warning and said he was following me because I touched the double yellow line in the middle of the road twice.
Dude,
and I wanted to turn and go, is that illegal or are you just fucking with me? But at the end of the day, like, I realized what had happened in the situation.
Right.
I mean, he was following me without his headlights on. Seriously. I mean, my boy Bill was in the car. He put his cop lights on, and I'm looking in the rearview mirror like, no headlights. Then his headlights came on. I was like, dude claimed to my face, oh yeah, I was following you because, and I was like, what?
Man, yeah, it's not right out here.
Situations like that you can't control. And as a large black man, if I had reacted any type of hostile way, everybody would have seen the video and be like, oh, you were acting aggressive, this, that. Something would have went down. It was on me. Even though he is the person in power who has the power to de-escalate the situation off rip.
Right. It's like, I understand it's a dangerous job or whatever, but like, if you can't handle the pressures of that job, you need to find a different one. Like, literally, I was hearing a story about how in the Middle East, they had to stop being so aggressive with the people there. And like, they were straight up told, like, this may make your job a little more dangerous, but that's what you signed up for. And it's like, if the military can do that in a whole other foreign country, how can they not do that with their own people? You know? Like, it's just not right. So we're trying to make sure that we get these people who are obviously not fit to have these kind of powers out of that kind of job. So I feel like the solution is to get them out.
And at a certain point, when one cop is doing that, and you see other cops surrounding it, you're yelling at that cop to get off, you're videoing. And I was asked this by my dad the other day. It's like, at what point do you step in, right? At what point do you have to get involved in order to save his life? And I told him that's a tough situation to ask of anybody. Think about not knowing a person, right? Surrounded by 4 armed police officers who are blatantly hurting this man without any regard for his life.
Right.
What's to stop them from doing the same to you when you jump in and making a situation better? Like if it was a mob situation in which everybody's willing to get involved, gung ho, go get their ass. But at the same time, then weapons come out, and then you're at risk of getting shot. And police officers are not trained as well as people think with firearms, which is why whenever you see these videos, one cop shoots, the other ones are shooting. You know, they're not as trained as you think. And I told my dad, I was like, unless it was like one of my boys, like, it would be hard pressed for me to step in and do anything about it. Not because I don't care, not because I don't value life, because my own life.
Right.
And at some point, if you jump in, like, you better be going for his gun because he's going to go for it. And then that becomes a whole problem where you went for a police officer's gun. Boom, you're beat.
Right.
It's
like,
just beat.
Look at the movie Queen and Slim. Like, literally, in the movie, they shot the police officer out of self-defense. And then at the end of the movie, they still were killed because, you know, on the run, even though they were acting in self-defense.
And it's about your life. Yes, I get that, but you're choosing your life in prison, life out of it. It's such a hard situation to be put in that I'll be tough because, like I said, like I told my dad straight to his face, if it was you or one of my boys and I had to jump in, I just have to resolve, I'm about to either get shot or I'm about to go to jail afterwards. But I'm going to save your life in doing it. And think about trying to make that decision for a complete stranger. Like, I get that it's tough. So, like, don't blame. I know people were talking about people in the video. Oh, you're just watching and filming. Like, and I'm like, no, that's on the other police officers and the police officer. It's hard pressed to ask a man to risk his own life for a complete stranger. It's tough, but
right. It's like their job is literally to protect and serve. How are we? You know,
how is that what you're doing?
Right.
And it's a tough situation. No, it really is. And that brought me to another topic of discussion that I had with my boy Bill, and with Megan on the phone the other day. Is, you know, how do we resolve this whole thing? How do we end, or can we even end, racism itself?
Man, you're asking for, I feel like you're
asking for a ton. Like you said earlier when I brought it up, what do you say? That's utopia, bro.
Right. Like that would be an amazing world, yeah.
And you know, it's really weird because I was trying to think to myself. I really was asked, you know, like, oh, are you going to protest? Are you doing this and that? And I responded to Brandon at work. I said, you know, for me, I want my voice to be heard. I want to speak about the problems and talk and give my solutions, my take on it. Like, this is where I feel like I'll do the most impact. Dropping links in the comments, right. You know, getting people to watch the video, bringing a little bit more awareness, speaking on it, putting it on social media. That's where I feel like I do the most good. We do the most good.
Right.
And that's why I told him, you know, instead of protesting today, like, that's what we came here to do. We're going to get back on this podcast. It's been long enough. And we then went on to talk about how and if we could end racism. And I told him, I said, man, racism comes from so many different places. It comes from, you know, your parents being around in a time when that was acceptable and that was the norm, or, you know, their parents, et cetera, being passed down. It comes from a situation you live in, coming from somewhere with no black people and hearing stories, seeing stuff in the news about all the crime. You know, then you just, in your head, you're just thinking like, oh man, they're this or that. You have all these opinions that are unwarranted.
Right.
But then it also comes from just people wanting to hate somebody, people not, you know, just finding somebody to disagree with, to not like, to, you know, talk down to. And if you're going to do that, if you're just going to do that to a random person, why would it be somebody that looks like you, acts like you, has the same ideals as you?
Right.
It won't be. It'll be somebody of a different race with different ideas, different taste in music, different everything.
Right.
Will be the person that you end up spiting, you end up hating. And you may not consider yourself a racist, but if you do racist things, or you compartmentalize all black people into one category, white people, etc., that goes both ways.
Right. That's,
you know what I'm saying?
Right. That's inner racism, not, you know, outer.
Right. And I get you're not trying, but, you know, it's not going to work out. You're racist. So it's just so hard to say, how do we stop that when it comes from so many different places?
Right. I feel like right now, you know, battling racism is like you said, there's so many ways that it comes from, so many places it comes from. But right now, what we can do is help police reform.
Right.
You know,
and that's just the start. Like you said, we can't handle all racism. That's the world. That's everywhere. We can start by starting in one place and moving to the next and the next. And it's a process that takes forever. Not in our lifetime will we probably see no racist people, but at the same time, we can, make sure that people are called out for their wrongs, brought to justice when they do wrong things, et cetera, et cetera. So like it's a tough ask to try to end racism, but all I can say is we can do our part.
Oh yeah,
you can try our best. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask.
Spreading love.
And it's tough to think that something like that would still exist because some of us in our heads, that's just impossible. I cannot imagine being that way.
Right.
Being so closed-minded, so bigoted, like that just doesn't to me even compute.
Right.
And anybody I hang out with, I hope they think the same thing. I mean.
Right.
And then it starts with your friends, and then you move on, get other people to think that way, make sure, the situations are de-escalated. We need to pass laws to help with that, you know what I'm saying?
Right. If you don't speak up about racism to your racist friends, you're just as wrong.
And it's been like a really big trend on social media is people coming at other people for not saying anything. And so I want to just talk to those people. It's not, your silence means more than you supporting. How much effort does it take to show a little bit of support?
Right.
Really, how much effort does it take to post something, to sign a petition, to speak out against wrongs? Like, yes, you can do nothing, and that's cool, but that makes you part of the problem. Not as in you're helping the people who do racism, but if they're doing stuff and not everybody is telling them it's wrong, only certain people, and then they feel like the other people are with them, that's the problem. You are giving them the life, and I've seen people talk about it. And I've seen people speak up like, people have called me out. I'm on your side. And that's all you need to do is just show that you're on the right side of things.
Right.
Because it's sad to say it, but if you're not with us, you're against us.
Right.
Because you're not helping the problem, then the problem's still going to help around. It takes everybody. They're not saying you're silent so you're a racist bastard. They're saying you're silent so you're not helping us delete racism. And why is that not a goal of yours?
Right.
What do you have against it? And then it becomes you must be a racist.
Right. So, that's what definitely what I try to urge is just, I feel like just having the conversation, just like you don't have to be out here making public statements, blah, 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 but you need to be at least be having these convos like with your close friends. If you don't feel comfortable enough to talk about it on social media, message a few of your friends that are people of color and ask them their opinion. And, if you need to be informed,
a little bit of support.
Right. I feel like, maybe, and if you're ignorant on the topic, like talk to your closest friends. Like if they're people of color and if you're a person that wants to understand that's like a step in the right direction.
Showing love is just the start.
Right.
So. And then if you can do more, you do more, but at least show some form of support. I know at work the other day when we were having this conversation at the table, it was like 4 people of color and a white guy came up and was like, look, man, like, sorry for everything that happened. Like, I know it's really suck and I know it's really tough and hard on y'all. If y'all need anything, let me know. And I just sat there and I was like, damn, you see, that's all. He could have sat there quietly and not said anything the whole time we were having the conversation. Kept to himself and but he took the time to come over and tell us that. Look, he had nothing to do with the situation. He's not a racist. It didn't matter. He showed his support for our conversation in the break room because he knew that would mean a lot to us.
Right.
And showing support is really all people are asking out here.
Right. Allies. We just need allies. We need people that's on the team right. It's not a race thing. It's right versus wrong.
Yeah. Some white people are going harder than anybody else. Shout out to Hannah. She's posted more than even I have.
Right. Shout out to Craig. That man is a straight up ally.
People are for sure allies out here and really hoping for the best and trying to make a change. And in the end, that's all we can ask for. Hopefully the riots and looting come to an end. I'm tired of them being grouped together.
Right.
I think in the news outlet, one thing that's being misconstrued about the whole movement is that people are looting at the same time the rioting is going on. And they're grouping it together as the same thing. Oh, they're looting and rioting to get to the no. They're
looters taking advantage of the situation.
Taking exactly. He said the word for it. Taking advantage of the situation and looting dilutes our peaceful protests and solutions because then we are treated as hostile because of those actions. Now, I'm not saying that some people aren't looting thinking that's the solution. If you are, come on, bro. Let's get these peaceful protests. Let's sign protests, get petitions, raise money to get people out of jail. Over 10,000 people arrested. Like, that stuff we should be working on, not robbing the target of TVs and whatever else. Like, okay, that's a little bit excessive. I get that. And I'm not saying I'm against protests. I'm saying I'm against looting and rioting and breaking into random stores. Even black-owned businesses have been destroyed, and people don't even realize what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just taking advantage of a bad situation. I want people to focus on the protest and the petitions and everything that's going on.
Right.
Man, I know Josie and Hannah and some other people were like getting money together to bring food to the protest at Freedom Park, stuff like that, snacks. Like, stuff like that is what we need to be focusing on.
Definitely.
Not people breaking the stores, but the media outlets, they're putting them both together. So if you're looting and shit, you're hurting the protest because people are looping it in as the same thing, and it's, you know, it's a bad look.
Right.
For sure.
Taking away from the message.
You know. So man, we just really had to come back and speak on that whole thing. You know, had to get our thoughts out there. If you guys have any thoughts, you know, just make sure you drop it in the comments. You know, share the video if you had any parts you like. You know, we're gonna definitely clip it up and post them to our stories and everything. We kind of want to bring awareness to this video just because this is our way of helping. Making sure you click the links in the description, making sure you go show love on social media, you know, spread the word, not just about the podcast, but also about the protest. Share your pictures, show your support.
Right.
Don't be silent.
Don't be silent.
And
no justice, no peace, no racist ass police.
you already know how that goes. We also had a little bit of just an ending point, man, a hypothetical for y'all that had something to do with our point, one we were going to save for another podcast, but I guess we'll show it out. So here you go. Abe, you can answer first. What would you do if you found out your significant other's parents were racist?
Well,
not your significant other, obviously, but their parents.
Their parents. Well, it would definitely make coming over for dinner really awkward.
An adventure, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I would try to have a conversation with them and maybe see like what's going on with that. But I would definitely continue to date their daughter or whatever because, I mean, if she's dating me, hopefully she's not racist, and you know we'll create the next little generation of non-racist babies. Hopefully, I mean, so
biracial, non-racist babies. That's definitely where I was gonna go with it. You know, also like not to be too funny, but doesn't that make like you know, like, oh yeah, I'm coming over to stay at y'all's house with your daughter. You already know what's about to happen upstairs that you don't approve of.
And I'm gonna drink all they racist juice.
All of it.
I'm gonna drink your orange juice.
All your food.
Apple juice. Right. I'm gonna come over. Yeah.
It has nothing to do with her, but I'm gonna get a little bit more satisfaction about showing up on the holidays, like how y'all folks doing.
Right.
Oh Lordy, did she bring a biggin home? Yes, she did. Yes, sir. That's me. Shake his hand extra hard. You know, a little bit of extra.
Thanks.
Sir, how you doing? A pleasure to meet you. You know, rub on him a little bit.
Right.
Like, stop me, man. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like still sweaty from just getting done, like smashing the daughter.
Sorry, I was working the fields this morning. I just putting in work. Dude, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't deter me from dating her, but it would be an adventure and a half to go over for dinner and make sure you make a really, really nice Christmas card to send to them in case anybody's in the situation. Just
definitely.
Make sure that they put it on the fridge and their friends come over and like, oh Lord, is that your daughter with a Negro? I would get way too much satisfaction off that.
For the culture, you know.
For the culture, baby. Well, you know, it's been Big Talk. Share, like, comment, subscribe, all that. More videos coming soon on my page. More podcasts coming soon weekly.
Right.
We're back in action. The set's going to look different. Probably not the next podcast, but the one after. But we're ready for a change. It's going to be bigger, better, greater. And you already know what it is.
It's going to be consistent, and we're going to keep shooting these at you now. So,
yes, sir. Big
right,
Talk.
guys.
We out.